I played Metroid Prime 4 Beyond on Switch 2, and this highly anticipated first-party title is certainly going to surprise a lot of people in both good ways and bad when it releases in December. Now, a bit of context, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was first announced way back at E3 2017 and is essentially the follow-up to 2007's Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. The good news though is that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond still retains the intuitive combat and intriguing exploration that are at the heart of the Metroid franchise. However, as we are now firmly in the Switch 2 era, some modernisation has been introduced which may not be to the liking of some purists. Before we get into that though, let's start from the beginning. So after a brief presentation, we were thrown into a tutorial mission at the start of the game, which introduced the game's key mechanics and abilities, including her morph ball ability, scanning visor, and of course her arm cannon. Then all hell breaks loose. Sylux, a rival bounty hunter and the antagonist of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, appears with a bunch of space pirates and is after a mysterious artifact. What it is and why Sylux is so eager for it is unknown, and this artifact does something, and then suddenly we're in a new area called Fury Green on planet Vuros. This is where I was able to really try the game out for real. Now, first things first, I'm incredibly happy to report that that very dodgy looking footage we got during the last Nintendo Direct event seems to have been captured on an original Switch, because this game looks superb on Switch 2. Whether it's the green cinematic landscape or even her arm cannon, this game looks great and is really sharp with some nice modern textures, and graphically it looks much better than I expected it to. It's not perfect, mind you. Some of the grass textures when you look closely aren't that great, and I'm pretty sure there's some DLSS magic going on, particularly in handheld mode, but it's pretty, very pretty. Now, just on resolution and frame rates, I got to try out both quality mode and performance mode, with quality mode prioritizing higher resolution, offering 4K at 60 frames per second with HDR when docked, and 1080p at 60 frames per second with HDR in handheld or tabletop mode. While performance mode delivers gameplay at 120 frames per second with HDR, running at 1080p when docked and 720p in handheld or tabletop mode. To me, both modes felt great, and you could really feel that 120 FPS when in performance mode. It feels super smooth, but me personally, I preferred the graphical upgrade when using quality mode, and 60 FPS was more than enough for a good gaming experience. Also want to note as well, the game ran really well, really smooth, didn't have any graphical problems, so that was a nice surprise for me. Then there's the combat, which feels, well, exactly how you'd want it to. It's familiar enough that you recognize it as a Metroid Prime game, but modernized to feel sharp and with extra features, one of which is the new Switch 2 mouse controls. Now, back when I reviewed the Switch 2, I felt that the mouse controls were good to use, but if more games weren't designed around it, it might feel a bit gimmicky. But there's nothing gimmicky about the mouse controls when playing Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So much so that I spent most of my session playing it in this mode, and playing it on handheld after almost felt unnatural, to be honest. The way you can utilize the mouse controls to lock onto your enemies or use them to have more manual fine control with your aim is genuinely really intuitive and works brilliantly. In the area I was in, there was a good mix of enemies, from annoying little bugs to ones that were a genuine challenge, including a boss that was a right pain in the backside and required me to think about how to beat it in a particular way, quite puzzle-like rather than simply point and shoot. Now, speaking of puzzles, there were plenty sprinkled throughout the mission, mostly to serve as a tutorial for new powers, which are psychic in nature and name. That's basically the buzzword for this game. They essentially serve as upgrades to your standard equipment, with the ones I unlocked being the psychic visor, thanks to a new crystal that's embedded in a helmet. You also have the psychic glove, which can be used to pick up and or move certain exotic objects. You've also got the psychic charge beam, which allows you to shoot, then slow time, and then control exactly where your charge beam ends up. And then there's the psychic bomb, which allows you to drop a small projectile when in morph ball mode. Now, this might not be for the purists, but I think it's a pretty clever way of freshening up what are essentially very similar weapons, much like Nintendo did with Link in Tears of the Kingdom. Exploring felt great too, and I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed scanning every enemy, plan, or exotic object I came across, and it always felt worth doing, as it often gave you hints or tips for how to defeat an enemy or progress through the game. Now, talking to you diehards, for a Metroid game, there was quite a lot of dialogue in the small section I played, most of which came courtesy of a character called Miles McKenzie, and some of you are going to love him and some of you are going to hate him. He's a galactic veteran technician who you save from almost certain death, and he talks a lot. There's a bit of funny dialogue about sitting in a cubicle with a guy called Phil, but mostly he follows you around and acts as a sort of narrator throughout this particular mission, and even manages to get a nod at one point. Now, I know, if you're a purist, you're going to hate this. There's not really much more to say, but in the modern day, you surely have to have some dialogue going on, right?
Wow, that is fascinating.
Story-wise, there's plenty to be excited about, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface in my play session. There's the mystery surrounding Silux, the mysterious Lemorn race, I mean, what exactly the mysterious artifact is. There's also the various areas and environments we'll get to explore, and of course, something I didn't get to try in my session, the role of the motorcycle Viola. For me, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is surprising in all the right ways, and I can't wait to play and explore more. I think it's shaping up to be a visually impressive, modernised new entry in the Metroid franchise, although the game's modernisation may be too much for the purists. Are you looking forward to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you drop a like and get subscribed so you don't miss the full review when we've got it for you. That's all from me though, we'll see you in the next one.